Financial forecasting in the budget preparation process. The purpose of financial forecast is to evaluate current and future fiscal conditions. They present the financial forecasting present estimated information based on past, current, and projected financial conditions. This will help identify future revenue and expenditure trends. The forecast should be regularly monitored and periodically updated. The key steps in a sound forecasting process include the following. Define assumption. There are 4 key questions to consider when defining assumptions for the forecast. 1. What is the time horizon of the forecast? 2. What is the objective? For example, a conservative forecast. This will make it harder to balance the budget but reduces the risk of an actual shortfall. On the other hand, an objective forecast will make it easier to balance the budget but increase the risk of an actual shortfall. What is the political, legal issues of the forecast? And fourthly, what are the major revenues and expenditure categories? The next step to make a forecast process sound is to gather information. To support the forecasting process, use statistical data as well as the accumulated judgment and expertise of individuals inside and perhaps outside of the organization. Department heads may have an insight into activities within their own section. Such plans might include a comprehensive development and capital improvement programs. And the third element to have a sound forecasting, financial forecasting is the preliminary and exploratory analysis. In particular, the forecaster should look for evidence related to business cycles. Does the revenue or expenditure tend to vary with the level of economic activity in the community, or are they independent of the cycles? How do broader market forces impact key expenditures, such as pension contributions affected by investment returns? 2. Demographic trends. Are population changes affecting service demands or revenues? 3. Outliers and historical anomalies. Does the data contain any extreme values that don't need to be explained? It could be that these present highly events that don't add to the predictive power of the data set for relationship between variables. So a forecaster should look at the business cycles, demographic trends, outliers, and historical information and relationship between variables. The next item to make a forecast sound is to select methods. We have extrapolation, regression, econometrics, and the third one is hybrid. Extrapolation uses historical revenue data to predict future behavior by projecting the trend forward. The second method, regression, econometrics regression analysis, is a statistical procedure based on the relationship between independent variables and a dependent variable. Hybrid forecasting combines knowledge-based forecasting with a quantitative method of forecasting. Okay, so the next item to make a forecast sound is to implement methods, making the forecast and forecast range, and use forecast, the credibility of the forecast. It must A, have a transparent forecast process, B, it show the comparison, C, the revenue or expenditure that might cause the actual results to be higher or lower than the forecast. D, stay within acceptable accuracy tolerance. E, avoid over-promising. F, be careful about using forecast to raise an alarm. The next item is to presentation approach. It must be clear, simple, reasonable. B, it must build a message around the baseline set of assumption. Any exception must be raised. C, the forecast should explain how the assumptions lead to the forecast without delving into the details of the specific methods. D, the address the implication in terms of budget shortfalls or surpluses, changes in reserve levels, and other metrics. And E, some key potential supporters involving other staff in forecasting process. In this step will also help ensure the understanding of the method is shared by key potential supporters. Number 3 is to linking forecast to decision making. The following policy: A reserve policy which establishes the desired level of reserves to maintain. B, a policy of maintaining structural balance which requires recurring expenditures to be covered by recurring revenues. A forecast is required to tell if this will occur into the future. C, a long financial planning policy. D, capital improvement plans. Okay, that's it.